You know you're getting older when the candles cost more than the cake. None of us like to be reminded that we are ageing. And yet it happens all the time. First happened to me when I was 58. And a very well-meaning, kind friend said, "Oh, I'd love you to come to my son's wedding. We've invited you to the day-do because we thought, well, at your age, you probably don't do discos and late-night parties." But I find it in business as well. I'm a bit of a workaholic. And so when somebody says, "Oh, what have you got on at the moment?" and I tell them about my many projects, they look at me with a sort of shake of the head and say, "Aren't you thinking of retiring yet?" All of these are based on stereotypes. The trouble with stereotypes is they tell you nothing about the intelligence of the person, about their energy, about their drive, or about their ambition. It's difficult, isn't it, when you're pigeonholed in that way? I know a bit about that. Well, just look at me. I'm 64, I'm 4'11", female, blonde, overweight, I use a stick, and I speak like an extra from Peaky Blinders. And if you put me in a room with 100 people, very few of them would have me pegged as a business strategist, a businesswoman, and a successful author of 3 published espionage novels. And yet, the companies I work with have their fortunes changed by the strategies that I write for them. And I know how to kill a man with a blunt teaspoon. So you need to be very careful about applying those stereotypes because you never know what you're missing out on. And I've had lots of these conversations with women, particularly older female entrepreneurs, who've talked about the barriers that they have to cross, just simply because they're trying to follow their dreams and do what they want to do. About 12 months ago, I came across a report called the Rose Report, written in 2019. And there was a sentence in that that absolutely stopped me in my tracks. And it was this: if women started and scaled businesses at the same rate that men do, we could add £250 billion to our UK economy. Let that just sink in a minute. 250 billion. Further on in the report, there was another surprise. The fastest growing group of female entrepreneurs you could probably predict, 16 to 25-year-olds, but the second fastest group is the over 55s. And I just thought, what are we doing with all of that potential? There must be a reason why we're not hearing about that. So I decided to do a research project, and I put a questionnaire out to all of my contacts and through social media, just to see what women's lived experience was like if they're over 55 and they want to start or scale a business. And if I'm honest, I would have been thrilled to get 500 responses. In the end, nearly 1,600 women responded to me. And their stories were astounding. They were filled with courage and ingenuity. They talked about drive and ambition. They were filled with humour. They were filled with surprises. Like the woman who became a TikTok influencer for women's well-being at 73 years old. Or the 68-year-old woman who has a lifestyle business who earns a 6-figure salary every year. These are not inconsequential. These are important examples. So what I wanted to do was draw these things together and just see what those lived experiences could teach us about some of the stereotypes that we have to navigate. The 2024 Wise Women in Business report pulls together all of that, but there are some really key things in that report. Predominantly, there are 4 myths that are exposed by the findings. Myth number 1, when you retire, you stop work. 82% of respondents said, that might be okay for some, but not for everybody. We've still got purpose. We've still got the ability to contribute. We want to make a difference. We want to help people. And that doesn't matter whether you're in your 60s, 70s, and we even had examples of women in their 80s doing that. Myth number 2 was that ageing is a time of decline. And I don't know about you, but if you cast your minds back to when you were little, you looked around at some of the 60-year-old women that you saw, they were old. Just think about Jane Fonda. Just think about Cher. Women don't age in the same way because we've learned to put our own health and well-being at the top of our priority list. We look after ourselves because we understand that nowadays it's not about ageing, it's about longevity. We live longer, in lots of cases quite a bit longer than men. So we're going to be around for a lot longer. Our bodies have to navigate that journey for us. So of course we're starting to put ourselves at the top of the pile. Myth number 3 then is that women only work after retirement because actually they can't afford not to. The 63% of women said, whilst that is true for some of us, rather than see it as a period of decline and a period of deprivation, we should be embracing finding out what floats our boat. We should be finding out what brings us alive. What contribution do we want to make? And we should be following that dream because there are so many women that have a dream of being able to be their own boss. Why shouldn't we follow that regardless of what our age is? Because at the end of the day, 60 is the new 40. Myth number 4. And this one was really troubling for me. Myth number 4 is that women starting businesses when they're over 55 are actually a much higher financial risk. And that shows in everything. If you try and open a bank account for a business, if you try and get a loan, if you look at investment capital that goes to women, less than 1% of investment capital, all of the investment capital that is available, less than 1% goes to women over 55. And so I just thought that can't be right. And I was reading an article in Forbes magazine written in 2022 that said actually that isn't right. That there is a direct correlation of women, older women who are starting businesses who actually stand a better chance of success. If you are a 50-year-old founder, you are twice as likely to run a sustainable, successful business than your 30-year-old counterpart. So for me, what this myth-busting did was it said quite clearly that £250 billion is there for the taking. What are we doing? We need to be stepping up to the plate and people need to take us seriously. So the findings of the report were interesting, but of course it's nothing without the recommendations. And those lived experiences had got lots of wisdom and lots of innovation in them. It always, for me, was about what can we do. You can't depend on anybody else in this world to do something for you, so you have to start that ball rolling for yourself. So here's a few things that the report says that we can do. Well, first of all, we need to be challenging some of those stereotypes and outdated ideas about women facing retirement years. We need to be challenging banks, lenders, financial institutions, commercial companies to develop products and services that are suited to our needs, that reflect our journeys, and that don't disadvantage us. We need to be using this fantastic reservoir of knowledge and skill and experience. We should be using it to mentor younger women entrepreneurs, supporting them so that they don't have to fight the same battles that we've had to fight. It makes such sense. So there's lots that we can expect other people to do. But at the end of the day, there is things that we can do as well. And so I'm saying to women, if you are over 55, and if you don't know what that time holds, don't believe everything you hear. When I looked at the research, very few of those women were tired and worn out. In fact, the opposite was true. They were fired up and ready for that next step in their life. And I want to spread that. So I'm a woman on a mission. And that mission is quite simply refirement. I want to ditch the word retirement and I want to talk about refirement. Because the existing definitions that we have around this are not fit for purpose. We should be reimagining what that looks like and creating a definition that is fit for the 21st century. But we all have to stand up and we all have to do our bit. So what I want you to think about today is, what can you do? One of the first things that women can do is to stop apologising. Stop apologising for things that are not in your gift and not in your control. Have the courage to be able to know what it is you need, know what you want, and ask for it without apology. You've earned that right. Refirement should contain choices and options and freedoms to spend that period of our life, that next phase, the way we want to. Nobody should put you in a box before you're ready. We also need to be generous, and in my experience, women are incredibly generous. Female business owners support, cheerlead, they collaborate, they want the best for each other. And we need to be doing more of that, and we need to be talking about it. My goodness me, we need to be talking about our successes. You know, ditch the voice in your head that says you can't say that, people will think you're big-headed. Kick it into touch. We have the right to celebrate our wins, and we should be doing that because every one of us is a role model for a younger version. Whether you want to be a role model or not, people will look at you and see what you've achieved, and we need to be mindful of that. So it strikes me that the older I get, the bolder I get, and I'm clearly not alone. So what I want you to think about today is, when was the last time you stepped into the light? When was the last time you took a stage like this and talked about the things that really matter to you? I'm here today because this is a lifelong ambition for me, to be a TED speaker. But it's not about that. It's about being given a forum to share these ideas and to shake people's thinking up, because it's about time. So, as you leave here today, I want you to talk to older women about what it is that they want, what floats their boat, what is fun as far as they're concerned, and encourage them to go off and do it, regardless of how big that dream might be, or how strange people think that you have an ambition at that age. I want you to challenge those things. I want to stand here and do this for women of my age, younger and older, because the reality is we are women who want to rock, but not in a chair. Thank you.